Hi, I'm Rebecca from the blog and YouTube channel Moon and Magnolia, and today I want to share with you the tools that make scratch cooking easier. Earlier this year, I put out a full YouTube video about curating your kitchen for efficiency. And in that, I took you through every cabinet drawer and nook and cranny and showed you all the tools I use for cooking. But what I want to do today is share with you the things that I feel like I cannot live without when it comes to scratch cooking. And I know it's maybe a little bit early to think about holiday gift giving because it's early September, but these tools are really useful. So you can store these in the back of your mind as you start thinking about gift ideas for the cooks in your lives for the holidays. All right, so let's talk about these kitchen must-haves for scratch cooking. If you have been watching Moon and Magnolia over the last year, the thing you have probably seen me use the most is my cutting board. And specifically, I use this trusty end grain cutting board. So an end grain cutting board is definitely an investment in your kitchen. They do range in prices, but they are more expensive than your standard, say, bamboo cutting board. However, with the proper care and maintenance, it will last a lifetime. An end grain cutting board, in short, is a bunch of wood blocks that are adhered together, but the grain of the wood moves up and down. And the reason why this is helpful in a scratch cooking kitchen is because it is antimicrobial, it's easier to take care of, and it's better on your knives. The easiest way to envision an end grain cutting board is through an example my husband gave me. So it's a little bit like a dartboard, but really tightly compacted. So when you slide the knife across the cutting board, those vertical grains, those fibers, have a little bit more give so the knife can slide. So rather than moving across a bunch of horizontal grain, it's moving with vertical grain, which makes it a little bit better for your knives. But what's also really interesting about this is that vertical direction of the grain is also the same way the tree absorbs water and nutrients. So when you use an end grain cutting board, any liquid or oils actually move down through the grain, and as such, it becomes an antimicrobial cutting board. So you don't have to worry about sterilizing it all the time. You don't have to, of course, you wouldn't put it in the dishwasher, because when all those microbes get down in there, they can no longer survive. Additionally, the oil coating that you put on an end grain cutting board can help protect against unwanted bacterial growth. So pretty regularly, you do need to season and protect your end grain cutting board, because not only does it extend the life of the cutting board, which can be a full lifetime and beyond if you take good care of it, but it also helps keep it clean. One of the best parts about an end grain cutting board is that it can be refinished. So when a bamboo cutting board, for example, is done, it is basically trash. But if your end grain cutting board starts to get a little dry, or over the years it starts to get a lot of knife marks, it can be sanded down, soaked in oil, and completely refinished. In fact, if you've been watching over the last few weeks, I've been using a different cutting board because my cutting board was actually getting refinished. I put a cast iron skillet on my end grain cutting board, which is really stupid. Don't do that. So it had to be sanded down and then refinished, but now it is as good as new. Next up on my list of kitchen must-haves for the scratch cook is a KitchenAid stand mixer. And specifically, I really like this KitchenAid 7-quart bowl lift stand mixer. Over the years, I've had a number of different KitchenAid stand mixers, and just like the end grain cutting board, I think I would have been better off just investing in a better one off the bat, because this is now my third one and the only one that has been able to keep up with my sourdough demands. So there are a few reasons why I like this better than my other stand mixers. Aesthetically, I like the larger stature of this one. It looks nice in the kitchen and I really like the color. This particular color is called Milkshake, but of course you can get KitchenAid mixers in any color that matches your home decor. And even though this is a small detail, I really like that it has a way to wrap up the cord built in. My past KitchenAid stand mixers didn't have a way to do that. Of course, it's an easy fix with like a twist tie or something like that, but I just prefer having it built in and it's ready to go, and it keeps things nice and tidy in the kitchen. But in terms of using it to make dough and bread, this has been the only KitchenAid stand mixer I have had that doesn't walk on the counter. And that is really dangerous, because if your stand mixer is walking, it kind of like rocks back and forth until it reaches the edge of the counter. That can be a huge problem and very dangerous, especially if you have small children around. So far, this mixer has not moved an inch while I have it turned on. And sometimes I run this thing for like 10 or 15 minutes when I am making enriched sourdoughs on a medium speed, and it doesn't move at all. A stand mixer is a game changer in a kitchen, especially if you make your bread from scratch. I make my family's bread from scratch every single week, and it wouldn't really be possible without some sort of mixer because I do not always have time to do stretch and folds for weekly rustic sourdough bread, and I definitely don't have time to knead enriched doughs by hand. So a stand mixer takes what would be a long process and turns it into like a 10-minute ordeal that is hands off, and it's the only way I am able to make bread for my family every single week. And for sure, people have been kneading bread and whipping up meringues, for example, by hand for a long time, but I'm very thankful to be living in 2024 where I have all these tools at my disposal and I don't have to. Okay, next to my KitchenAid is my third tool for scratch cooking, and it's new to me, and that is a grain mill. So I recently posted an unboxing and a review of my Mockmill grain mill. I'll leave that in the description box. But the grain mill is a game changer in our kitchen right now because I can make really interesting, unique, and super nutritious foods for my family. A grain mill grinds wheat berries into a flour. So if you have a grain mill at home, you can make homemade flours with grains that you would never be able to find in grocery stores, or if you can find them, they are prohibitively expensive. I've been talking a lot about milling grains on YouTube because this is new to me and I have been enjoying sharing what I've been learning along the way. But the thing that I really like about a grain mill is that it boosts the nutrition of the food you feed yourself and your family, making scratch cooking even more valuable. So when you buy flour at the store, of course, it is already processed and turned into a flour. And wheat berries lose their nutrients as soon as they are milled. So as soon as that wheat berry is ground up into a flour, it starts to lose its nutrition. Then you compound that with the miller often takes out the bran and the germ, which is the most nutritious part of the wheat berry. They do that because it increases shelf stability and appeases modern taste buds, but it also is a less nutritious product when you buy flour at the store. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't buy flour at the store. I buy flour at the store all the time, but I have been supplementing a lot of flour in my recipes with fresh milled flour, and not only is it boosting the nutrition for the food I feed my family, it tastes really good too. A grain mill can really enhance and switch up the way you make breads and provide grains for your family. A grain mill is a little bit of an investment for a kitchen. However, there are grain mills that run a pretty wide range of prices. I'll leave some links in the description box for you so you can check out the different grain mills, their prices, and their specifications. In addition to my end grain cutting board, the thing you have probably seen me use the most, maybe even more than my cutting board, is a cast iron skillet. Fun fact, when I first started cooking in cast iron, I hated it. Everything stuck to it, I burned everything. So I put it in the cabinet for more than a year, and then on a whim, I decided to try it again, and I did it right. And now I almost exclusively cook in cast iron. And the piece that you probably see me use the most is my cast iron skillet. So this is my handy dandy large cast iron skillet that I cook just about everything in. Now, the deal with cast iron is it has to be seasoned. And because it needs to be seasoned, people think it's a pretty high maintenance product, but it is in fact not high maintenance at all. Cast iron can be washed with water and soap and dried, and then simply just needs to be seasoned as needed. I have a full blog and YouTube video about how to season your cast iron. I will leave those in the description box. But I don't want you to feel like you shouldn't use cast iron or you can't use cast iron because it's too high maintenance. It is not high maintenance at all. A cast iron skillet like this large one is actually a pretty cheap investment for your kitchen. These range anywhere between $40 and $60 depending on the size of the skillet. So that really isn't that expensive, especially compared to some high-end stainless steel cookware. And it can last a lifetime with proper care and maintenance. It can last not just your lifetime, but also for many generations after you. So for like 40 bucks, if it can last your lifetime, your kid's lifetime, and their kid's lifetime, I mean, that's probably the best investment you're gonna make in your kitchen. In addition to the skillet, I'm also a huge fan of the Lodge dual cooker. So I use this all the time. Oh, sorry, it's kind of heavy. I use this all the time for cooking and baking bread. And the reason why I like it is because it is one product, but you get 2 pieces of cookware. And I think it's right now on Amazon, like 60 bucks or something. So that's really cheap for 2 pieces of cookware. This is the lid, which serves as a skillet. And then the bottom is also a deep skillet like this, but combined, it is perfect to use as a bread oven. I bake my sourdough bread in this all the time. You've probably seen me do it a million times on YouTube if you've been watching for a while. It is the best bread oven I have. If I had to give you a few cast iron gifts, I would definitely give you a skillet that is 12 to 15 inches because I think a larger skillet is just more versatile. I actually have a blog over at moonandmagnolia.com about this different skillet sizes and which ones are best for what type of kitchen projects and for family sizes. I'll leave that in the description box. But really a 12 to 15 inch cast iron skillet is good for just about anything, whether it's cooking on the stovetop or baking in the oven. Of course, I would also give you the dual cooker because it is the best bang for your buck and it is super useful. I also would not be able to live without my enameled cast iron Dutch ovens. And just to do a little myth busting here, enamel cast iron is not non-stick. A lot of people say it's non-stick cookware. That is not true. Enamel cast iron is cast iron with the glass coating that is used to protect the cast iron from rust. So you still have to use oil or butter when you cook to prevent your food from sticking. I use my Dutch ovens all of the time for cooking, especially things like soups and stews. I have a video that I put out about a year ago showing the different Dutch ovens that I have and comparing them. I'll leave that in the description box below. So if you want to learn more about the Lodge, the stove, or the Cuisinart Dutch oven, you can check that out. But I like to use my Dutch ovens mostly for things like soups and stews or really big batches of food that require a stock pot. There are a few reasons why I prefer a Dutch oven over a regular old sauce pot or stock pot. One, it has the benefit of cast iron where it gets very hot and holds that heat. So if you want to make a really nice cozy stew in fall or winter, it's great for that. But also the lid is heavy and tight fitting. So the steam and the moisture can't really escape. So if you are making something like a slow cooked stew or soup that you want to simmer all day, it does not dry out or cook down too much. A gnocchi board. This is a brand new kitchen essential for me and it has been a game changer for homemade pasta. I love homemade pasta. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like all pasta. Who doesn't like pasta? But homemade pasta is really good. But making pasta and rolling it on a KitchenAid takes a lot of time. And when it comes to making pasta, I often just don't feel like standing in the kitchen and then rolling it and cutting it because it takes forever. A gnocchi board, even though there is no machine involved and it's all done by hand, is so much faster. So for days when you want to have homemade pasta and you want to make a small batch for your family, this is perfect because all you do is make the dough, roll it into long ropes, chop it into little pillows about 1/2 inch long, and then you just roll them right along here, and that is homemade pasta. So essentially, you are making gnocchi, but with pasta dough. But what a gnocchi board does that a pasta roller does not do is that it adds texture to your pasta. So all of these pretty little patterns here, they add texture to the pasta to hold the sauce. And on top of that, when you roll it, it creates a C shape in the back of the pasta, which holds sauce. So really, in my opinion, you can make much more delicious pasta and faster with a gnocchi board than with any fancy roller or pasta cutter. And on top of it, your pasta turns out really pretty. It might seem too simple to be true, but these bread bags are one of the best things I have found recently for my kitchen. These are cute linen bags, but on the inside, they are plastic lined. And this is great for things like sourdough sandwich bread or sourdough burger buns, for example, because those enriched breads are best when they are stored in plastic. Of course, you could use a freezer bag or some other plastic bag to store your bread, but Ziploc bags aren't necessarily cheap and they are pretty wasteful. So this adds a little bit of aesthetic to your countertop and also keeps your bread fresh. And keeping your bread fresh is really important when you're making homemade bread because that is a lot of time and energy energy you put into it, and it's really annoying when it ends up going stale after you just spent all this time making homemade bread for your family. I got these on Amazon. I'll leave a link in the description box for you. They come in a 4-pack. I have 2 more, but I left them at my in-laws' house. So I only have these 2 right now. But what's nice about them, because they come in a 4-pack, you can also gift some of them too, because most of the time, at least for my family of 3, we don't really need 4 bread bags laying around. For a no-knead sourdough boule, a more rustic, crusty type of sourdough bread, the best way to store that is just in a regular old kitchen towel. The plastic can actually make the texture of a rustic loaf a little bit funky. So I recommend taking a towel and just wrapping it around your sourdough boule to keep it fresh. It works for a day or 2. If you feel like you can't get through your bread in a day or 2, the best way I think to deal with it is to slice it up and throw it in the freezer, and then you can just use it as you need it. Last up on the kitchen must-haves for scratch cooking is a proofing box. And if you've been watching Moon and Magnolia for a while, you're probably so sick of hearing me talk about a proofing box, but I will talk about this until I'm blue in the face, because it is the differentiating factor between being able to make bread at all and not being able to make bread. A proofing box allows you to create warmer, more humid conditions for bulk fermenting your dough. So if you are busy and you know that you need your dough to bulk ferment within 4 to 6 hours, you can increase the temperature to speed that process up. And it's not just useful if you're really busy, it's also useful if you have a hard time in your house finding a warm place for storing your sourdough starter, or just for bulk fermenting your dough, because some houses are a little bit cooler or drafty. And in the winter, some people's houses get really cold. Not here, because I live in North Carolina, it just doesn't get cold. But if you live in a cold place, it can be helpful. So let's say I want to make bread, but I forgot to feed my starter the night before. I can get up in the morning, feed my sourdough starter, put it in the proofing box, set the temperature to around 85 degrees or so, and then in about 4 hours, I have an active and bubbly starter ready to use for baking bread. So it makes the process of making sourdough bread a lot easier. I use the Brewed & Taylor proofing box. It is collapsible, making it really easy to store. And not only does it work for proofing bread, it also has a slow cooker setting. So I actually got rid of my old school slow cooker because I like this better because it's easier to store. So all you do is just set it to the slow cooker setting, increase the temperature to 195, which is the standard temperature for low on a slow cooker. And you just put your stock pot or your Dutch oven right in there with the lid, and you use it as a slow cooker. So I actually use my enameled cast iron Dutch ovens in my proofing box all the time for a slow cooker, and it works out great. And then when I'm done, I just fold it up and put it in the closet, and it's completely out of the way. Of course, these are not the only tools I use for scratch cooking. These are just the ones I feel like right now I cannot live without. They help me make scratch-made meals more efficiently. They create a better end product for my family and for myself, and often they create a more aesthetically pleasing product without any extra work. I'll leave links for all of these products or comparable products in the description box so you can check them out there. If you want to stay in the loop with all of the Moon and Magnolia happenings, be sure to sign up for the email list. I will send all of my recipes, tutorials, and YouTube videos directly to your inbox. The link to sign up is in the description box. And I'd love to know more about what are your kitchen essentials. If you have anything in your kitchen that you love and you think would create a more efficient process for cooks in this community, leave a comment below and share with us what you like to use. Thanks so much for stopping by today, and I will see you again next time.